So we've got a 2017 Nissan Navara, D23, NP300. There's a leak at the right rear axle seal. So no other videos seem to be up at the moment of anybody replacing one, so just going to give you a little insight and see what we find in there. Alright, so the drum is off. The reason this was picked up was a brake imbalance, so you can just see a bit of oily residue there. And it's coming out from there, so it's just contaminated the brake shoes, so they're not performing like they should anymore. So in this instance we're going to be removing the brake shoes because we're going to replace them anyway. Yeah, there's cases where you can remove the whole lot with it on. Right, so now that the brake shoes and wheel cylinders removed, we'll just remove the ABS sensor and then we'll unbolt the 4 bolts that come in from the back that hold the axle assembly in. Alright, firstly we're going to need to remove this ABS ring, which is pressed onto the shaft. So we've just removed the ABS ring. It was just pressed down to there. Many different ways that you can do it. If you've got a pulley you can fit in there. I just used the pry bars evenly each side, just because I've got all the replacement parts, so damage wasn't an issue. Just made it a bit easier. Okay, next step is take the lock ring that was just bent up, so we've just knocked that away to release that, and just started tapping this anti-clockwise to start undoing it. Now we just got to remove the old bearings. Alright, so press your old bearing out of here, pull your leftover bearing off that side, just use one of those, or if you've got any other method here, just get the bearing right out. We're just using the old bearing outer shell, press the new one in. Now we're just going to press the shaft through the bearing, so this is how we're doing it. That's just on the inner ace of the bearing, which allows us to press that down without collapsing the bearing or pushing it right out the bottom. New lock ring. Just going to crank that down, we'll get that nice and tight and lock it back in. Don't forget to knock your little crimp tab over there, lock it in. Lastly, just press that ABS ring, use the new one, just in the same method as we did down there. Alright, so we just put a new inner diff seal in too, so that stops the diff fluid from coming in and contaminating the wheel bearing. The new one's already in there, I've just knocked that in, but when you're pulling it out, just use a seal pillar and pluck that out, and then just socket the same size as the outside and just tap the new one in. Also just chucked a new O-ring around there, so we're ready to chuck that half shaft assembly back in. So just slid in the axle seal in, just put the 4 bolts on the back, tighten them up, ABS sensor back on, Just be careful not to damage that inner diff seal as it goes in. New shoes fitted and ready to put the drums and the wheel back on. Just make sure your brakes are adjusted. We're just going to take the brake line clamp off and finish up by bleeding the rear brakes at the wheel cylinder we had removed. Hope you enjoyed watching, and maybe this will help somebody else in the future if they need to do one as well.